everyone, my name is Sarah Beth, and I just finished reading Erasure by Percival Everett. This book was published in 2001 and is 270 pages long. This actually serves as a basis for the film American Fiction, which came out last year and won Best Adapted Screenplay. I watched the film and loved it so much I've been meaning to read the book, but books are very expensive, so I got this as a gift. I'm gonna say I was extremely excited for this book, so maybe the hype for me just didn't live up to what I was expecting. Main premise, if you have not seen the movie or don't know anything about this book, essentially a African-American writer who has done good work in the book industry, but doesn't really write commercial fiction. He writes things that makes people think. Think more of David Foster Wallace, in his huge books that require you to use a lot of brain power, very dense, just, but actual great complex writing. So you have that kind of author who's basically written off as an African-American author, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's just he believes that he's being marginalized because he doesn't want to write books about the African-American experience because he doesn't feel like he relates to that experience because he's never really been outed because of his race, and he's lived upper middle class life. And so the fact that everybody pushes him to write something that he doesn't know or doesn't believe in, and they say that he should write more black books. And this is actually written by an African-American author, and I'm gonna be honest, I do believe this is a little bit of autofiction. I think that the author felt that he personally was being marginalized because of the way that he wrote and the kind of things that he liked to write. So I believe that there's definitely a bit of parallels there. I've not read his other works, but just based off of a little bit of digging I did, it seemed a high probability. I do think that the writing, there's certain areas of the book where the writing is terrible, but it's terrible on purpose. It also gave me the same thrill that Misery gives one, because there's a certain section of the book in which the author basically gets angry that he's being marginalized, so he writes a book that is terrible, but it's what everybody's expecting. It has no correct grammar, and it's just about this thug, and it's very much, there's literally a few pages where it's like, F you, no F you, F you, and it's literally writing that out, which is hilarious. And you just think to yourself, wow, this is trash writing. And at the same time, it's written by somebody who can write, which is the amount of depth that the author had to write to get to that point, because I feel like the way that the story within the story moves forward is kind of interesting, because I can tell the author can write. The way that he makes certain choices for his characters, and just the way that the plot moves forward, good author. But the prose, terrible. The grammar, terrible. I mean, in general, the characters themselves aren't very deep either, but it's supposed to be bad, but you can see that it's someone doing it on purpose. I love the fact that the writer had to delve very deep in which to get that kind of effect in the book. Also, there's a certain point in the novel, it's at the very beginning, and he wrote an essay that was extremely dense to basically prove that he's the smartest and that he's insulting a certain group of authors. And I'm gonna admit, I kind of skimmed it. Like, I got the gist, but I was like, this is too dense. I don't want to read it. But that was the point of the section, I'm assuming. The rest of the book doesn't read like that. The rest of the book, honestly, I do think that the prose is not, like, lyrical and beautiful in any way, but it is, it's pretty good. It's on par with some other books that I've read. Maybe, if you like Tuesdays with Morrie, it's functional, but it still has beauty within its own subject that it's writing about, so to speak. I enjoyed that. I do think that our main character, Monk, the writer, I I think, honestly, that the movie might have been a little better. I think that there's certain themes that were brought up in this book, and maybe it's because this book is too short. I know I'm saying a book that is 265 pages is too short, but you have to remember that I think like 70 pages of this book is My Pathology, which is the book within the book that he wrote. And so you read 10 chapters of a book that's not the book. So that's why I feel like the book might have been a little too short, because the movie actually expands upon certain relationships that are within the novel. You see them, but they're more fleshed out in the film, and you really get to delve into the character more. With certain absences, for instance, Monk has a half sibling that he discovers. Well, this is a character novel. I don't think that's giving anything away, but and she's not in the movie, but I don't really think she adds much to the book. There's certain things that are omitted from the film, from the book to the film, which not a lot, honestly, but just certain things. But there's a lot of things that are added for the film. Certain relationships are skewed and changed in certain ways. The ending of the film, I gotta say, it's better than the book. I loved the ending of the film. And I was a little disappointed that the book didn't go as meta as the film, but at the same time, it's still a very good book. I think if you really like the film, read the book. The book is still great. It's actually, as it says here, it's a finalist for a Pulitzer Prize, and I can believe that. It is genuinely, and especially coming out 2001, the kind of themes that this book delved upon was definitely out of the norm. Now everything feels very meta, so it kind of makes sense. And everything's trying to break the mold now, but this actually did break the mold back then, and I like that the character Monk is kind of pushing the boundaries of what you would expect, because usually you think someone like this is the bad guy. And I never really viewed Monk as the bad guy, because at the same time he's just trying to get by. His life is a mess, but you think to yourself, well, all he does is a writer. He's not working a blue-collar job, but you're living in his life, and his mother is, dying of Alzheimer's, and his sister passes away, and you feel for the guy. It just goes to show that everybody has their own plights regardless. Obviously some are more than others, but I think it's worth a read if you love the movie. Maybe watch the movie after the book, because it expands upon this and it's better. I almost wish I read the book first. Well, usually I read the movie first. So yeah. I hope you enjoyed my review, and have a good one.